So can you start by telling us your names and where you guys are from?
I am Lily Kincaid.
And I am Olivia Kincaid.
And we are from Nebraska. We decided to go to Standing Rock because we wanted to stand for the water, but also we wanted to stand for Native and Indigenous sovereignty.
Was that your initial reason for why? And if so, how did it change after being in Standing Rock?
They were both initial reasons. We fought the KXL in Nebraska a couple of years ago. So we've been doing activism work. She's been going with me to activist stuff since I was pregnant with her. And I've been doing it since high school. So our reasoning didn't really change. But ultimately, we care about the water, but we also really care about Native and Indigenous rights and sovereignty and their culture. So that's important to us too.
Okay, so you said you did activism work before. Can you explain a little bit about how that was like and if it was different from the activism work done at Standing Rock?
So it's a lot different actually because the activism work that we've done before, we fought the KXL, which was mostly a court battle. In Nebraska, at least, we were fighting for our aquifer there. We have done activism work for rights for undocumented people, human rights activism, just all kinds of things. So it was a lot different at Standing Rock just because, I have stood on front lines before, but in Standing Rock, I was shot in the back twice on Turtle Island. And so, I have not experienced, that level of, police brutality or police violence that we experienced in Standing Rock. But then at the same time, inside of the camp, it was so beautiful. And just, everyone sharing with everyone. For example, when I got shot on Turtle Hill, I had an asthma attack, and I also had hypothermia. And so people that, I didn't even know, my brother Bravo, for example, came in the water and got me. They could have left me there, you know what I mean? I could have died of an asthma attack. They didn't know who I was, you know what I mean? And still, they helped me. There are instances, with the girls and I, where we would, give people rides or help people with whatever, and we didn't know who they were, where they were from, it didn't matter, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just really beautiful, it's the way I feel that we're meant to live and we were supposed to live. And we just, lost our way because of, colonization. So I don't know, it was definitely different in that aspect.
So did the whole family go to Standing Rock then?
Yeah, my 3 daughters all went to Standing Rock.
Can I ask a question for Olivia? What was that like for you going to Standing Rock?
It was very peaceful. There were the sacred fire and stuff, and we would just pray together, and it was beautiful.
Yeah. When did you guys go? For how long?
I first went in November by myself.
And then we went in December.
Yeah, because I wanted to go and be by myself first to make sure that I felt it was a safe space for my kids to be, I've got a 2-year-old, and so I needed to make sure that, everything was, okay for them, because a lot of the live feeds only really showed, negative aspects, as far as the front line and things being dangerous, so I didn't want to throw my kids into a dangerous situation where they're on the front lines or under attack themselves. So I went first in November, and I was there for 3 weeks, and then I came back and got my daughters, and we were there for the month of December.
Wow.
We planned on staying. Originally, it was supposed to become an intentional community that we were all going to just live at forever, and so that was our goal, and what we, some of the elders Robert White Mountain, that was their goal as well. And so we had thought we were just gonna stay, and then I got really, really sick at the beginning of January, and the medics asked me to go home because I had pneumonia and they could not take care of it there. So I went home, I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. By the time I got out of the hospital, they were already evicting everyone and attempting to burn the camp down, and so that's why we didn't end up going back. But then we've since come to Wacapawash State.
Olivia, did Olivia experience any of the action front lines?
She was not ever.
was it like for you knowing that your mom goes out there, which is very brave?
I didn't know it at first because I didn't know what would happen. And the second time, I was just a itty bit scared just because, like, they had guns and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Scary.
Were you watching it all on TV, or were you communicating with your mom? Were you calling her?
I do have a phone. Now I have a Facebook. I didn't then, but I used to like text her and call her sometimes when she had a connection.
What's that like as a mother, knowing that like you're putting yourself in that kind of like intense situation, but also obviously for the right reasons and a very good cause? Thought of like getting
so it's
arrested.
kind of a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Because I choose to go on the front line and do these things for my daughters. To set the example for them to stand up for what is right and for what they believe in, regardless of the cost. But also because they're my daughters and I want them to have a future, I want them to have a life, you know, like I want them to have water to drink and like fresh air to breathe, for all of the children, not just my own. So, like that's why I do that, but at the same time, like it's hard, like in November, I made a video for them just so they could watch it, you know, like when they missed me, but also because I wasn't sure that I was coming back for certain, you know. I was hospitalized twice, so like the first time before I came back to get the girls, I was hospitalized. I got really sick, and that was when I was shot in the back and got hypothermia, and I have asthma, and so it just like all of it like just compounded on itself with like the dapple cough. So when I went back the second time and took them with me, like I knew that there was a good chance when I went on the front line that like I may not come back from the front line to be with them, you know, and so like that part was hard, you know, like knowing that like you're making a video for your kids, like to say goodbye to them if you have to, but they don't know that, you know.
I'm trying to kind of keep it calm.
But I also like I want to make them proud, so
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, like I hope that I do.
And if you guys, I know it was difficult, there were difficult times, but if we could talk a little bit about the positive. I've heard a lot of great things about the camp and how there was just so much energy. And
Yes.
you
You could feel like the positive energy and the good medicine like the minute that you got to camp. Like as soon as I got out of my car, like you just feel it. And I was a bit apprehensive, you know, like on the drive up. First of all, because I have horrible directions, so I get lost really easily. And so, you know, like I felt kind of anxious and also just like walking into an unknown situation. But as soon as I got out of my car, like I didn't feel any of that at all. Like I just felt like completely peaceful and positive and happy. Immediately, like you would like drive into the front gate and people would say, "Welcome home," you know, and that's what it was. Like it felt like home. Like a place has never felt like home to me. It's always been like my kids have felt like home, but that place feels like home, you know. And my kids ask me all the time, like, when can we go back home, Mom? You know, and like that's rough because my 5-year-old doesn't really understand, you know, like they burned the camp to the ground, like you can't go back. Last time we were at Wakawashse, we drove up to see Turtle Island, and so the girls could like be up close to it because they had not been able to since that was part of the front line, and it's still like gated off, and so that's really hard, you know, like we can't even like go visit the camp or like offer tobacco or hers, you know, but like we still have all the people, you know, so like those people are still our family. We still talk to the majority of them and we love them. Like they support us, we support them. You know, so it's still like the legacy of Standing Rock. Like our camp might not be there, but the legacy is still there. You know, like the prayers are still there, the people are still there. You know, so it's just a matter of like moving the camp to a different location, basically. You know what I mean? And I feel like Oshete Shakon was really like the catalyst for everything. You know, like they may have burned that camp down, but they lit embers in all of us that will never go out, you know. And so like there's this saying, you know, like we used to be at Standing Rock and now we are everywhere. You know, which I find really beautiful because it's true, like we are everywhere and there are people like praying with us, you know, like in different countries and all over this country. So
I noticed that you have a No Dapple tattoo and I think also a Turtle Island tattoo. So did you get those when you went, after you went? I just think it's very cool and I'm just curious. Because it seems like it clearly meant a lot to you.
They do mean a lot to me. So, like, the Turtle Island tattoo I got because the medicine would obviously with Crazy Horse's vision, but also because Turtle Island was where I got shot, but it was not, like, a negative experience. I know that sounds crazy. But really, like, even while I was being shot at, I think part of it was the adrenaline, but I think also, like, the ancestors were with me. Like, there was barbed wire, and I didn't see it at the time, but, like, going, like, all the way down the hill. So when I fell all the way down it, I easily should have, like, slid along the barbed wire and hurt myself, you know?
Oh, wow.
But that didn't happen. I had to jump over a ravine, which, you know, like, could have, like, broken my ankle, or, like, when I was, like, fell down after they shot me, like, I could have broken my neck, but instead none of those things happened, and I felt like, honestly, the ancestors just, like, carried me down, you know, and, like, showed me, like, this is the spot that you should go, because there's no barbed wire right here, you know, like, and so the whole thing was just beautiful, and then, like, meeting Bravo, like, you know, like, he is my brother now, like, I consider him, like, my blood brother, and I talked to him a lot. And so, like, the people I met because of that experience, you know, like, all of it was just beautiful. So, like, that's really significant to me. I feel really connected to Turtle Island. I miss it a lot. And then this tattoo that I got was just, obviously, like, I mean, it says no pipelines, water is sacred. But my friend who's Blackfoot did this tattoo for me, and so it's significant in that way because, you know, like, it's good medicine, it's an indigenous tattoo, but also because we're not just fighting DAPL, you know, like, we've got KXL, Energy Transfer Partners is trying to put in a gas line in Chocolate Canyon, and so, like, that is a significance to me of that tattoo, and the first pipeline that they put in, Rockefeller put in the 1800s. So, you know, like, this is a battle that, like, indigenous people specifically, but all people really, like, have been fighting, like, since the 1800s.
Can I ask a question for Olivia again? What was it like for you to go to Standing Rock and then go back to Nebraska? And, like, are you in school in Nebraska? And was that a strange thing to go from such an extreme, happy place back to kind of, like, a regular life?
It was very peaceful there, and when I had to leave, I was kind of sad.
Yeah. Did you make friends at the camp?
Yeah. They were, because a lot of them were like family.
Oh.
Is there a specific time, like something that you remember that you always think about from camp?
Yeah. Like a favorite memory or anything?
One time we wore rain boots because we didn't think it was going to be that cold, you know. So we wore rain boots because our snow boots, like most of them, were like somewhere in our closet. So then we were trying to get to the bathrooms there. And we didn't know because Evie kept crying about her feet hurting, and we didn't know. But when we got to this dome place, these really nice people gave us a ride. But these people, they were really nice. And they gave us a ride and took us to the dome. And when we got to the dome, when Evie took her shoes off, because she was like super crying, so when we took her boots off, there was a bunch of snow in them and stuff like that. So then, and these Sami people, they gave us warm coats and wool socks and wool boots, basically wool everything, so that we would stay warm.
Who's Evie? Sorry.
Is that your second daughter?
She is my 5-year-old sister.
I heard a girl being called Amaya, so I figured it was an Amaya. Okay.
Yeah, Maya's 2 and Evie's 5.
How old are you, Olivia?
I'm 9.
And your
Yeah.
You're a water protector. Your name's on the water protector tent. It's true.
So you spoke about your friend who gave you your tattoo. Do you consider yourself to be kind of part of an activist community back in Nebraska? And
We've been really active in Lincoln with like pioneers in the community group and things like that. But really, like, so I've refocused my activism because there's so many things that need to be like dealt with and fought for. And so like human rights have always been really important to me. So like really I'm just focusing my activism more on like human rights and indigenous rights, but like on decolonizing, because I feel like if we can decolonize and set that example for other people, you know, like they will want to do the same thing. I don't think anybody really, for the most part, wants to live in the system or be part of the system. Like we're just kind of like stuck in it, you know, and we feel stuck. Like, you know, like people can't afford to buy land, so they can't just go live on land. But because places like Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe are opening land to water protectors, it makes it significantly easier. And so right now, like my main goal is just like I'm working in Nebraska. And my goal is just to make enough money just so that we can winterize and be prepared for winter and then come back and permanently stay here.
At this camp specifically, or just
specifically at Wakapawash State Camp. I love the people here. Like Angry Bird today, I was so excited to see him. I've missed him every day since camp. And he's here. There's a lot of wonderful people like Red Stick that were at Oshete that are here. The Akichita here is amazing, so it's like extremely safe. Like I feel really safe, just like making just run around and play, and I feel safe.
Yeah.
Like I don't worry, you know, like about them like getting lost or getting hurt. And it's all like we all just like are a big family and a big community again, you know. So, and there will probably be another front line at Wakapawash State Camp, like with KXL. So really, I'm just focusing on that right now. I'm preparing for winter so we can just stay. My kids love it here. They feel like it's home here. They get like we all get really upset when we have to go back like to our like specific home, like where our address is.
Yeah.
So that's right. Can you say that again so I can hear you?
I said protect sacred sites.
Do you want to say it into the stars this way so we can hear you?
Or you can.
Said, protect sacred sites.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, protect sacred sites, defend human rights.
That's a very good slogan.
Really beautiful coming from someone really young.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You said that you brought Olivia along for a lot of activism. Do you have a favorite activist moment that you've had, or a favorite kind of movement or march or situation like Standing Rock that you've gone to?
Will I get to say no dackle or what?
Yeah.
I like how you do that. How that sounds.
And I got to put my name on that tent with all the water.
Very cool. Were you nervous at all about coming to Standing Rock as like a white woman? I know I was a bit nervous about having like proper cultural humility, I guess, and being like respectful. So did you? I don't know if you had gone to like reservations in the past, and did you like research it a bit, or?
I wasn't nervous, but we are so like we are not like.
I should say white
even,
passing. Sorry.
Yeah, well, we're not even like half blood, so like we really like technically we're like white, but we're also in northeastern Nebraska too.
Okay.
So my entire life, like I've studied Native culture. I remember being like 5 years old, literally, and like lying and telling people like I'm Native because I wanted to be so badly because I just identified with the, like that culture and like the people, you know. And that was before I realized that part of my family is northeastern Nebraska.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah.
So it was kind of ironic, you know,
Yeah.
like when I found that out later in life. But anyway, so I have spent a lot of time studying Native culture, Native history, teaching my kids about genocide, things like that. So I wasn't nervous about like offending people culturally, like in that regard. Yeah, hold on. So I wasn't nervous about any of that really. I was slightly, I guess, nervous about maybe like offending people like by my appearance, like by being there, right? So like
Yeah.
bringing like blonde-haired, blue-eyed children with me, and
Yeah.
like I like look like completely white.
No, yeah, that's all.
So that part, like I felt kind of maybe like people might feel like I was out of place, but at the same time, I feel like because we're completely white passing, we have white privilege, and so we, like need to use that as a platform to create the change, like be the change we want to see, and stand up, like against like a system of colonizers that are white,
Yeah.
So. And then Olivia wanted to share something.
Yeah, please do.
Because Mom was saying that she was teaching us about genocide and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Well, one time actually in preschool, it was Thanksgiving, and we were supposed to draw pictures of pilgrims and stuff like that. And I said, "No, Miss Brittany, why are you lying to us?" Because she was
Yes.
telling us, like, about how good the pilgrims were and stuff like that. And then I finally just drew the picture, and then I stood up on the table and ripped it all up, and then
That's
I
awesome.
said, "Do you know about this genocide stuff?" And
That's
then I kept shouting
I got a phone call.
I have one of my little cousins got an assignment where she had to write a diary entry as Christopher Columbus. So my aunt had her write something that was like, "Today I found some land. I slaughtered and enslaved the people who lived there." And it was like that the whole time. I always think it's very cool when kids do things like that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's our biggest change, like we always will say, like any water protector that's like a real water protector will tell you, like we're fighting for the children, like all of the children.
We've gotten that.
So education is a huge part of fighting for children, like educating them in the right way, but then also like empowering them to speak out to other children and educate other children or their teachers, or like to tell an adult like you're wrong about this. Like,
It
this
takes
is
a
the
lot of
real
courage
situation.
as a kid, yeah.
So I think we definitely need to raise, especially our daughters, to be strong warrior women, that
Yeah.
defend the sacred and stand up for other people.
How do you teach and sort of break down such horrible, traumatic historical events into like digestible pieces for your daughters, and how do you keep it like I don't know, like age appropriate, but just because I know I try to like educate my cousins, but there's some things where I'm like I don't know how much to say. So do you try to do that, or do you think that just like honesty is the best? Does it make sense what I'm asking? Kind of.
For the most part, like I just tell them, like this is what happened. I mean, certain situations I won't go into like great detail about, right? Like I don't show them like all these like horrible pictures of like a mass grave or like things like that, obviously. But really, like I just tell them exactly like this is what happened. Like this is what genocide means. This is what occurred. Like this is what the Pilgrims did. This is what Christopher Columbus did. Like this is why, like the Wasichu own so much of the I say like with quotation marks, but like own so much of the land. And like how they were able to like force people onto reservations, because the only way that you do that is with extreme violence. And like my kids know the quote, right?
Exactly.
But my kids know the quote that like they can't destroy a group of people until their women's hearts are buried on the ground. So I mean they know about all of those things. My 2-year-old really like doesn't understand, but like
2-year-olds don't really get anything.
even my
though.
5-year-old though, like she will like talk about genocide and like she understands, and she considers these pipelines to be like a newer form of genocide.
Smart 5-year-old. She's dead on.
Is there anything else that you would like to tell people? Because I know you guys definitely had the courage to go out there and to kind of leave that place of your home, your address.
Yeah.
What about those people who maybe don't have that courage or maybe can't leave but would still like to help? Is there anything that, from your background of activism, that advice for people to help?
Well, like the biggest advice that I have, so it's kind of like two different things, I guess, but the first one is to be really careful. Like, I know people want to support, and one of the easiest ways is just like enter your credit card information into whatever, right? But a lot of the GoFundMe's like aren't really going to like actual activism, and they're not really going to camps or to like people like doing like real work. So I feel like people need to be really careful about vetting the people who have GoFundMe's or PayPal's, and talking to like actually like water protectors who are like really there. You know, like, hey, like this person is asking for money for this. Like, do you know about them? Because water protectors will be able to tell you know what I mean, like what, like if they were on the front line ever, if they were at the casino the whole time, just like making money or what they were doing. I think that's a really big thing with our movement that really has hurt our movement. You know, like when people went to Flint, for example, and they disrespected the culture, they disrespected the people there that are already oppressed, and used GoFundMe's to do that. So I encourage people not to really help GoFundMe's, you know, but like you can look up the camps, like on Facebook even, like there are like a list of like all of the camps that exist, and Wakpawashte is one of them on there. One of the things I love about Wakpawashte and I respect about them is like we are not allowed to have a GoFundMe, so anyone who has a GoFundMe like can't come to this camp. And so I think that that's really powerful because we're trying to be completely self-sufficient. But like donating like supplies is always helpful, right? Like people are trying to winterize right now, so if people have like wood stoves that they're not using that they already have and they don't have to go purchase them, right? Or if they have like structures or tents that can be winterized, all of those things are extremely helpful to people. And also just, you know, like even if they can't like quit their job and just like leave and come out to the camp, like I would encourage people to go for like, you know, 4 or 5 days, you know what I mean, and just like make that be their like family vacation for the year, like to go to a camp and spend time with the people there, because really like it's scary. I mean, I'm a single mom with 3 kids, you know, so like it's scary sometimes to think about, you know, like I'm gonna not have a job, I'm not gonna have my house anymore, so like if the camp gets closed down or whatever happens, like we're just like homeless with 3 kids and my pets, you know. But once you actually like take the steps to do that, it's really not scary and it feels so free and so beautiful, you know, like and we all just share with each other, so nobody's gonna be homeless, nobody's gonna starve or be cold. So I think it like seems a lot scarier and feels a lot scarier than really it is in actuality.
Are your friends and family supportive of you like coming out here with your kids and wanting to move here eventually, or do they not understand, or is it like a mixed
my
thing?
best friend since 8th grade is very supportive of anything, but we support each other in anything we do. My family is, I don't want to like say negative things about them, but they don't understand.
Yeah.
They're like very, very colonized.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nebraska seems kind of more conservative. I don't know if they live around there.
Yeah, my family's not necessarily conservative, but they're extremely colonized. They were angry with me both times that I went to Standing Rock. They didn't understand why I went to Standing Rock either time. You know, like they thought I was being dumb and silly and all of those things. So like, they definitely don't want us to like me to move my kids to this camp or like to take them out of school and move here. I mean, like we still love them and respect them, you know, but I have to do what's right for my own children.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Okay, let's get another question for Olivia. Olivia, what do your friends back in Nebraska think about like you going to Standing Rock and like, because I know they might be kind of familiar with it, and I know if I was a kid and I found out one of my friends was there, I'd be like, oh my gosh. So, did you talk to them at all about it, or did you not tell them?
Like one time, because like in preschool, as I said, when I was talking about genocide and stuff, I got the phone call and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just I did tell them
You
that it
told
was.
Suri about Standing Rock,
Yeah.
though, didn't you?
Yeah. That's the one thing I told her about, was that it was beautiful and stuff there. Because I told her the positive things, not like
Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah.
There's so much positive, and sometimes I feel like it gets lost in some of the live feeds, and obviously like the media only shared negative aspects and a lot of lies from Morton County, but like
more on county.
more on county. that's right.
Mm.
But I feel like we sometimes, like in sharing stories, people focus on like one thing or another thing, but like forget all of the beauty in the camp, you know, and like all of the prayers and the spirituality, like, you know, like when the Heoka and the Wakinian came during the blizzard, you know, and like blew up some of Dapple's stuff, like, you know, I mean, the lightning just came and like because of the prayers, you know, or like the Tatanka came 3 different times, 3 separate herds, and blocked construction on the the drill pad, and came up through Turtle Island, you know, like that happened, like the Golden Eagles came. So there was all this like really beautiful, positive, like powerful spirituality from Creator that was coming to camp. That just often doesn't get talked about or like shared very much. And so I feel like it's really important to remember, you know, that like, yeah, there were awful things that happened. There are things that we need to learn from and like be prepared better for next time, like from Minita Choni, Tiger Swan. But at the same time, you know, like we need to remember and like hold like that beauty and like the positivity and like the prayers like with us and like carry them with us where we go.
I think that's. Do you have anything else you want to add or say, or
So,
anything else you want to say, Olivia?
We have matching vests.
yes. Is there anything
Very
else you want to
cute.
say?
Yeah, do you want
about
to say anything else,
this
Olivia?
camp or Standing Rock or anything?
Anything else?
Any shout out to your friend you told about?
Anything else you want the people to hear who are not able to be here?
Well, the pipeline shouldn't happen because, like, try taking a piece of paper and putting black ink on it and see if it comes out.
That's a
Just like
really good way to put
If
it.
you put oil in a river or an ocean, the life in there's never gonna come back. It's never gonna come back.
That was very concise. That was very good.
There's been fires that has happened because of that. Thousands of oil leaks have caused deaths.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so
of course.
much.